Dr. Saraswati, Assistant Professor, greeting from Bangalore Medical College. I'll be talking about magnesium in critical care and anesthesia. We all know magnesium is an essential element in the utilization of energy in the organic world. It has got a diverse characteristic, so it is mainly used, most of it, used in a critical care and anesthesia. So coming to the little bit of physiology, normal values is 1.4 to 2 milliequivalents per liter. It is the second intracellular cation after potassium. It's 53% present in the bone. Daily recommended dose is 250 to 350 mg. So less than 1% is present in plasma. So this lack of representation, we can't take it as an index for a total body magnesium value. So we take serum. So in a serum, the ionized active form is constitute around 60%. So coming to the absorption, it is mainly absorbed in intestine by parathyroid hormone and vitamin D, whereas insulin helps in a cellular reabsorption and glucagon in a renal reabsorption. Coming to the action, magnesium mainly acts on endothelium and smooth muscle. On endothelium, it activates the nitric synthase, so that mediated by nitric oxide, it results in vasodilatation and relaxation. Whereas on smooth muscles, it stimulates the uptake of calcium by calcium mediated ATPase, resulting in relaxation. So it is also a seen as depressants mediated by NMDA antagonist. Magnesium is available in two forms. One is the magnesium sulfate and other is the magnesium chloride. What we use in our day-to-day practices in anesthesia and ICU is a magnesium sulfate. So coming to the uses in anesthesia, I have divided it into general anesthesia and regional anesthesia. In general anesthesia, it attenuates the cardiovascular effect during laryngoscope and intubation. It reduces the anesthetic requirement, volatile anesthetic also, to prevent the PONU, that is a post-operative nausea vomiting. It also helps to reduce the succinylcholine induced fasciculation, which will be given during intubation. Also, it is not even though it is not a primary analgesic agent, it is used widely as an analgesic adjuvant. So for this references, this study was done in our Koppala thing. So it showed that the magnesium sulfate attenuates the cardiovascular effect during laryngoscope and intubation. Also one more study where magnesium sulfate reduced the dose of a rocuronium. So in patients like neuromuscular skeletal disorder, where you have to reduce the muscle relaxant dose, you can use magnesium sulfate along with that for a rapid sequence induction. But you can't replace the muscle relaxant. That is one thing. Coming to the intraoperatively, it is in a patient with arterial hypertension. It reduces the hemodynamic changes during anesthesia. Also in a non-laparoscopic surgeries, it reduces the post-operative ileal duration also in one of the study. Coming to the laparoscopic surgery, because of pneumoperitoneal changes, it counteracts the hemodynamic alteration. Whereas in this study, the Tan et al. In the Tan et al. Study, he used two different doses of magnesium sulfate, that is the 30 mg and the 50 mg, and notice that this 50 mg will prevent the attenuate the pneumoperitoneum related hemodynamic responses. So coming to the central CNS neurosurgical surgeries, it was compared with the dexmedetomidine in a endoscopic transnasal transpinoidal pituitary tumor excision, and it showed a better recovery than the hypertensive anesthesia. It is also used in a TIVA because of its numerous advantages, and in intraoperative in specific conditions like pheochromocytoma, as it reduces the alpha adrenergic receptor sensitivity, dilates predominantly arterial vessels. It reduces the afterload, maintaining the preload, and exerts a very important advantage. This is, it exerts a anti-arrhythmic effects via the antagonism of L-type calcium channels. Also in a pediatric surgery, it is used to reduce the BIS score, and the time taken to reduce BIS score was also less. And in laparoscopic surgery, it can be used for a intraperitoneal installation along with the bupivacaine or any other local anesthetic. Also in adenotonsillectomy, it was along with the sevoflurane, it showed that it reduces the incidence of emergent anxiety and the need for the post-operative fentanyl. In tonsillectomy, it can be used to reduce the post-tonsillectomy pain. So coming to the regional anesthesia, mainly we use magnesium sulfate intrathecally in a dose of 50 to 100 mg. Ideally what we say is 75 mg, as it can be given both IV or intrathecally also for the benefit, where it produces a sedation kind of condition lasting for about 1 hour without any side effects. So along with the local anesthetic, it results in a earlier onset of echinacea and establishment of suitable condition to start the surgery. This effect is due to blocking of NMDA receptors present in the central nervous system. So coming to the references, it is used in a mild preeclamptic obstetric conditions where it prolongs the duration of analgesia and reduces the postoperative analgesia requirement without any additional side effects or any other adverse neonatal outcome. Whereas in a severe preeclampsia condition, it is effective as only antihypertensive drugs and not effective when a patient is more than 40 years or with the early onset of a PIH. Also, other than obstetric condition, we can also use in a lower limb surgeries and in a orthopedic surgeries where it has got a intraoperative analgesia along with a postoperative analgesia. Coming to the epidural, the studies in epidural is very less compared to the intrathecal. This study was done in our institute for infraumbilical surgeries where there was a rapid onset and a prolongation of a duration of a analgesia. In other study, it results in a lesser requirement of analgesia post-operative also. So in magnesium sulfate can also be used in other peripheral nerve block like supraclavicular block. In this study it was used where the onset of the sensory and motor block was, the time taken was very shorter and there was a prolongation of a duration of a surgery also. So in this TIVA, it will be used in a 10 ml with 15% of magnesium sulfate along with lignocaine. It reduces the lignocaine dose also and also it reduces the tourniquet pain. And this is very important study, and we also use magnesium sulfate for the prevention of shivering. It can be given intrathecally also, intravenous also. When you are suspecting of magnesium toxicity, preferably you can use intrathecally. So where not to use it during anesthesia, both in hypo and hypermagnesemia, patient with electrolyte imbalance, and in geriatric and pediatric you should be cautiously used. Also in a musculoskeletal disorder patients and in a hyperventilated patients. So coming to the critical care, because it acts as a key cofactor in many physiological processes, it is used in a various condition in a critical care like hypomagnesemia as antiarrhythmic drug, and in MI, myocardial infarction, where it reduces the infarct size, and in cardiac arrest, bronchospasm, eclampsia and pheochromocytoma. So this is our normal value, that is 1.5 to 2, and hypomagnesemia is less than 1.5 and hypermagnesemia is more than 4.2. So 2.1 to 4.2 is a normal value because of a high therapeutic index. So well established use in a obstetric condition where it prevents the seizures in a woman with a severe preeclampsia. It slows or stops the premature labor. Also, it protects the brain of a premature babies. So this two scheme is we are well versed. So I am not going into detail of this Pritchard scheme and the Zuspar scheme. So overall, it has got a magnesium sulfate has got a very protective and improved maternal, fetal and a newborn outcome because of the decreased neuronal excitability. So this is supported by two studies where where the preterm newborns were exposed to antenatal magnesium sulfate when you are suspecting preterm delivery. In one condition, the magnesium effect was noticed on a cerebral, that is the anterior cerebral and the right and the left middle cerebral. They noticed that there will be decreased neonatal cerebral perfusion during the first few critical days. But they also noticed there will be high incidence of a PDA, which later required a surgical intervention. Whereas in one more study, the effect on a cerebral palsy was noticed, even though it did not reduce the combined risk of moderate or a severe cerebral palsy or a death, though the rate of cerebral palsy was reduced among the survivors. This was analyzed, this was studied when the patient, when the child became 2 years of age. This was assessed at that age. So in a hypomagnesemia, this is the condition, the most underdiagnosed electrolyte abnormality in the current medicine practice. This Angelo et al. Stated that it occurs, the incidence of hypomagnesemia was 19.2% before cardiac surgery, and it peaked to 71% immediately after cardiac surgery. So this has to be, we should be very careful when we treat electrolyte imbalance, and also to be considered the hypomagnesemia. So it is used in tachyarrhythmias like atrial fibrillation following cardiac surgery, rapid AF, refractory supraventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, and Tosidis de Pointis. So the American Association of Thoracic Surgery and the European Society of Cardiology have incorporated the magnesium into the recent guidelines. Also, because of its magnesium role in coagulation, platelet aggregation, and hemostasis, it reduces the hemorrhagic volume in patients with aneurysm, subarachnoid hemorrhage. And in acute asthma condition, this 3mg study is the largest study on acute asthma, which was done in the Scotland, UK, where involving 1,200 patients. And they noticed that nebulized magnesium sulfate has no role in the management of severe asthma in adults, unlike children. So, and also a very limited role for IV. So this is an ongoing trial. One very important study is going on to see the feasibility and the safety of using to determine the dialysate magnesium concentration. Usually the dialysate magnesium concentration is around 0.2, what we use generally. In this study they have increased to 1.2 to 1.3, so that to see the impact on a cardiac rhythm and the pulse wave velocity. So along with the benzodiazepam, magnesium sulfate can also be used in a tetanus to relieve the autonomic muscle spasm. This is a pooled analysis of 24 RCT in China, where to see the effect on lipids and hypertension, that is a BP, in a type 2 diabetes, and also notice that there is a profitable effect on glucose, like the serum glucose, lipids, and the pressure control. And commonly in a woman, supplementation also magnesium can be used because of its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. So precautions in renal impairment in digitalized patients and in myasthenia gravis and a neuromuscular disorder. Also, ideally the potassium levels must be normal before you give magnesium. So take home message is, because of its numerous physiological involvement in the physiological process, it is used as a vasodilator, bronchodilator, antiarrhythmic, analgesic, anti-seizures, anti-shivering, anesthetic adjuvant.